Hello, I'm Pickaxe, ToycatA, and welcome back to episode 464 of the Minecraft Bedrock Updated Adventures Let's Play. This is the weekly update as to what's been going on in both my survival world as well as real life and everything in between. And today I'm very excited to make a very expensive recipe that I didn't ever assume I'd have to make in survival, and honestly, for the vast majority of players, you never will. But today I'm working on something that even fewer players should ever have to focus on, and to avoid being too cryptic, today is a momentous day that's going to require me to take a lot of bizarre resources like health potions. It's going to require me taking some armor, I would say, also some nice little boots, me taking some bizarre stuff all the way to the other side of my world. It's actually kind of funny because the two different sides of my world used to be so far apart, especially when I first made this world in the Xbox 360 days, but now it literally is just a walk down the hallway in the Nether. You know, we're literally talking about 30-ish blocks, and then I walk down a staircase, and boom, I'm in the Nether portal, and I'm on the other side of the world, which is important because this part of the world is where my absolutely beautiful, handcrafted, artisanal, delightful, building competition winning house is. As you can see, took a lot of thought and effort to build this one. This is a building masterpiece because I'm a YouTuber and therefore I'm very good at building. Next to my mega beacon, that was sarcasm, I'm gonna have to clarify. There's gonna be one person who's like, oh, ToycatA, I can build better than that. You know, that was what the sarcasm was implying, friends. But the reason that I'm here on this side of the house with this brick place is because this also happens to be right next to where the world spawn is. Because you spawn up here, and if you don't have permissions with the world, you won't be able to break stuff, and you kind of get locked in this area until I do stuff. But I figure now that there's no way that people are going to join my world by accident, unless I accidentally, have the permissions reset or something like that. Given that it's not so necessary for that purpose, I figured why not use this as a secondary thing, because I have some very good news. Today, it was officially, kind of confirmed that we could compress the Minecraft world size down enough to make it work for the marketplace. Something a lot of people have been requesting for the longest time. If you play on console, the only way to download worlds is to download things from the marketplace. People have wanted to experience my Let's Play world for the longest time, and that's why we're going to be doing precisely that. And again, it's finally happening, and I'm very excited, and that's why I figured, okay, I want this to be a proper production copy of the Let's Play world. We're not going to be sprucing it up and making kind of a fake version. This is the pure survival, downloadable, playable in survival version, and as a result, I want to utilize this area in again, a real survival way, using real survival ingredients that I've collected over my time to give you a few little gifts. Because one of the things I really enjoyed when touring up people's worlds is kind of people giving me little, things to make it easier to explore. So I'm going to be giving people some firework rockets so they can fly around, some gold armor if they go to the Nether and they don't want to be attacked by piglins, some ender pearls so you can fly around, some diamond armor for their, for their legs, etc. Some health potions in case they run into some difficulties. I don't know, just in case, a saddle, a boat, these sorts of things that, you don't think about too much, but you might kind of want. Some food, really, really high quality food. I want to give, people kind of like a free chest if they want to just explore the world. And that is actually where today's little point comes in, because one of the most incredible uses for a brand new Minecraft item, Netherite, is not in making tools, as you're probably most excited to do if you do have Netherite, but actually, also, wait, we got some arrows as well. Have some arrows. We should give them a bow to use those arrows and an elytra to use those fireworks, right? We'll work on that. But the interesting thing that a lot of people forget about is that Netherite is not just useful for making Netherite tools and, obviously also making Netherite blocks, which is the ultimate flex, but also there is another Netherite recipe that, again, most people will never have to use, but it is the lodestone. Why do we mention the lodestone? Why am I wasting my supply, by the way, of Netherite here? This is all of my Netherite this is just all of my Netherite that exists in the world. We're going to be making right here. Why am I using all of this to make some lodestones? And that is because lodestones can do something very cool in my opinion. So again, look at this recipe. It's chiseled stone, which is easy enough to get these days because of smelting and crafting, but it's chiseled stone times 8 and a netherite ingot for every lodestone you want to make. For most people, this is not a trade-off worth going through, but right now it hurts me every time I'm doing this. It really does. But we are making some of these lodestones because I want to make clear waypoints for people who want to get to certain parts of my world. Again, one of the things I want to do is be a good host for anyone who downloads this map. And the reason I want to do it on the production, the world I'm playing myself as opposed to some copy, is because I want the map that's going to be downloadable to be regularly updated. I think, again, given that I can't put it on there for free, if I'm going to be charging people for the map, I want it to be, with the little service benefit of yeah, we'll have regular updates to it because we can recrop the survival world, etc. And one of the things we can do as a result of that is like, oh, yeah, what we're going to be doing is everything that you see in this world will be the exact same way that I play it, and that's why I'm going to be spending 3 of my Netherite ingots on these lodestones to guide you around complex parts of the world. I thought I had a giant pile of compasses lying around somewhere from just all the strongholds and stuff I've looted, but I don't. And this is a reminder as to why you should always keep Minecraft items. Compasses are useless if you know your way around your Minecraft world, for the most part. And compasses are even more useless on Bedrock, where even with no cheating under any definition of that word, you can see how the coordinates are in the top left all the times. You never need a compass, functionally speaking, in Bedrock. But today, we need some of those compasses that I thought, oh yeah, I'll never need those. Wait, in one of these chests maybe? Is there some compasses? No, there's not. So I've really been checking every single chest in my world because I'm like, no, I must have some compasses. Nope, every single time I found a compass, I left it thinking, well, that's just a waste of space. Why would I do that? And now you know what I have to do in exchange? I have to spend my own hard-earned iron on making these compasses. Because as you probably know by now in the Nether update, just in case you don't, if you place down a lodestone, you can then use your compass on that lodestone, and it will always point to it. As you can see in the hotbar, the compass is always pointing me directly to where that lodestone is, even through walls, even when you have elevation changes, it points you in the direction of the lodestone. I actually wonder what happens when we break this. I assume, yeah, it just points... Oh, wait, does it point where the lodestone used to be, or is it kind of random? Okay, it's random. You get a broken compass that doesn't do anything once that... Wait, can you unenchant this compass, or is it like kind of stuck this way forever? This is something I should work out right now. So we place a compass down, one of these down again, and then we re-configure our lodestone compass. It will point to the right place, so it's fine. You don't ruin a compass when you do this. But basically, it means you can show people where something is in your world if you really want to. It's a little bit of an expensive process, you might perhaps argue. Well, you'd argue correctly. But there's 3 places that people might really want to see that are kind of removed from the rest, and that if you haven't seen all of the videos in my world and you know, all of the live streams as well, or even if you have but you just didn't pay attention, or it's just not something you think about and you're not very spatially minded, you might not be able to find. So I figured I'd guide people to the 3 most important ones of those, starting with my pre-village in Pillage Village, which has walls around it. A lot of people will know it as the fascist village, but as you can probably understand, if you're trying to put something on a marketplace perhaps, and Microsoft is the arbiter of what isn't allowed, you might understand why they take issue, umbrage with that name, and why maybe we'd have to call it something else, and maybe, but you know what this one's going to point you towards. So this right here is now a compass, which will always point you to this village. I mean, it'll point you to the inside the village. So when we leave the walls of this place, as we're going to do for the sake of argument right now, when we leave the walls, it will always point me to the inside. So if you have this compass, you'll always be able to find this village. It's a pointer that'll take you there, except right now it's still called the lodestone compass, right? Which is a bit of a problem, one might say. By the way, if you're wondering, this village is where I get all of my diamond pickaxes and diamond armor. I mentioned it a few times, but there's always someone who's shocked that, like, wait, post-village and pillage, you can just farm for diamond stuff, and it's like, yep. So that's also why people might want to come here, and why we're gonna take one of these handy chest plates with us. So now what I can do, right after I enchant a nice diamond sword for my new guests, which will have Bane of Arthropods, the perfect enchantment for strangers, as well as a multi-shot crossbow, which is actually a pretty cool one to have. Once I've done with those, I can now go to an anvil. Oh, I didn't build a new anvil yet. But I can go to an anvil, and I can rename this. You know, I'm just gonna have to build a new anvil, aren't I? Let's find some iron. You can actually make surprisingly long names, but yeah, for just a single enchantment level, look at that. Now this, you know, this compass, which is always pointing in the right way. Again, it even follows you when you rotate. But this thing, which is always pointing in the right direction, will tell you what it's pointing you towards, which I think is a really, really cool invention. I'll admit, I learned it from a map that I saw. And it was one of those, again, I've seen how many people have been a good host to me when I've checked out their worlds, and I want to be the same to anyone checking out this world. So we throw this little compass in the chest alongside my brand new Bane of Arthropods sword, alongside this little crossbow they can have. Alongside, you know, have a diamond chest plate if you want one. You know, lots of choices for you, friend, using this map. Here's an axe and a pickaxe. Honestly, we should probably organize this a bit better. So let's have like the main gear down here, and then we'll have some armor off to the side, maybe, and then we'll leave the compasses in the bottom right. Boom! Look at that. This This is perfectly organized. Okay, I came up with a better system to kind of sort it, as well as a nice little friendly sign letting people know when the world was founded. Literally just under 8 years ago now, which is wild to think about. I really didn't imagine all of this would have happened 8 years later, but that's half the fun, isn't it? But yeah, I have this little sign that lets people know, welcome to the world, and then I have kind of two chests. One is, if you just want to go around the world, seeing everything there is to see after all these years of watching, perhaps, or months, or whatever long you've been watching, or there is the food and compasses, where you can see there's just some food so you don't die, and some compasses so you can walk there yourself in classic style. You can raid my chests if you really want to, if you download my world. Again, if you join this world, please don't raid my chests. That would hurt my feelings very much. But if you join the world, if you if you download the world and you just want to you want to look for the stuff yourself, then that's kind of a possibility, because there's two types of player. There's the just want to explore, and there's the want to do it under the terms that I would have to do it myself. And that is, or like you're joining the world, and maybe that's kind of cool. So yeah, we're gonna go get some more compasses now, because I've got 2 lodestones, so I can make 2 more compasses for 2 other big important things. And although there's technically lots of things you could argue are equally important, I think you don't want to overload the player of here is a billion things. So what are the 2 other really notable things from videos that people might like to see in the overworld dimension? Because the Nether and the End are pretty easy to work out, in my opinion. They're small enough dimensions. They're pretty self-pointing. Maybe we could add some signs to them in case it's really not. But getting around the overworld can be hard, working out where to go. So let's head this way. Because as far as things that are outside the kind of general core of my Minecraft world, one of the biggest and most recent people might want to see is this. This is my recycled Nether fortress. I got so much Nether brick that I made not just a big building and a pathway between various things, including that meant to look like a blaze spawner. It kind of works, right? But also, again, we've got a lot of buildings from Nether bricks, but I feel like that's easy enough to find because there's the big rail link linking it. But I'd argue something that is much more notable is probably the big floating ice islands. I built these islands out of ice in the sky, and honestly, it's a really fun project idea to have. I love taking it from start to finish, but it's an example of one of these things where it was a fun project that I don't really perfectly use. Again, I feel like everyone has one of these, especially when you see a really successful idea. You're like, yeah, I want to build that. But until you properly work out how and where to use it, for now this is just the end of my Blue Ice Highway, which again will one day be useful. My intention is actually to make this more and more useful as time goes on. But for now, it's some Blue Ice Islands that are really pretty. Some people might want to see, and that is kind of their primary purpose. But more importantly than that, because we have to point to the overworld somewhere. And actually, we can make one of these big islands. I guess this is the biggest island. So this island right here, we'll just place one of those right there, and we'll point a compass to it. But interesting enough, this is also a way to point to not only my ice islands and a barrel which has some some Nevrack inside of it, as well as a half-used trident and some unknown maps. That's interesting. I wonder why they're unknown. As well as an ink sac, which I'll actually take with me because I need black dye, all I can get. But also, if we go down this way, you'll see how the ice islands were built from ice. And the blue ice pathway, which is 3,000 blocks long, I didn't build that by finding blue ice. I built that by mining an insane amount of packed ice. And that means that also, just the kind of side of it, over here you can see there is an entirely mined iceberg, which I used to not only make the Blue Ice Islands, but also then to make my Frozen Nether, which, funnily enough, you can also get to with this same compass, because if you go through the Nether in any portal in this area, you know where you'll end up. Besides, just the Nether, you'll end up in the frozen part of the Nether. So all of my chilled builds, wait, it's ice, it's cold, cold-hearted, but it's hot in the Nether. There's a temperature differential because it's also a hot ocean. I'll just go, these are where my nice builds all happen. And yeah, I kind of like that it's all in the same place. And we got a little compass pointing to that. So now we only need one more compass. And what should we do with this, you ask? Well, I have a couple of good ideas. One was to point to the TU36 Let's Play World or whatever, for the OGs or whatever. But given that one of the most important things is trying to find an end portal, and when you're in a world that you're not familiar with, it can be really hard to point towards that. And given that my system of getting to the end is usually I go to the Nether, I go through this Nether fortress, I kind of go down the side of it, and then over here there's a really easy access point. That's really great for me. I enjoy this as an access point for my, my end. It's fast, it's efficient, it does what I need it to do, but it can be super confusing for new players, I imagine at least. I don't think anyone can intuitively navigate to this end portal, and if you can, you've got a better brain than me for that navigation, and that's why just over here, or maybe actually, just for fun, we could play this one in the sky somewhere. You know, I had a few grand ideas, but I think just right there, like just below the dragon egg, is probably the best idea. So now this is my end compass, and we need to be very clear about which one's which. Actually, they point different ways, but just to keep things simple, this is end, this is Ice Islands, as you can see right there. It moves around with me, same as the other compasses. And now we've got a way to point people to like the 3 biggest things in my world. And isn't that nice? Because the cool thing about end portals is it takes you to a whole new dimension, but also it's a great way to go back to spawn. And also, in the case of my end, actually, this is the worst like time to have my end be going out because it's in the middle of like a huge destruction. But yeah, if you want to see my big end, or maybe medium end after all the destruction that's happened to it, then yeah, that's a thing that you'll be able to check out. Also, the mild the beacon that isn't even a normal shape. Look at this. It's like 6 by 4, 6 by 5. What did I? You know, it's a wacky beacon that I have over here. That I've kind of just left. So if you want to see that too, you can come to the end. Also, obviously there's a blue ice pathway that goes all the way out to where I was starting an end village. I'm not going to finish that for a while because every time I think about it, I just get kind of like upset and confused. I'm like, oh, there's so much. The Endermen keep moving around my sand every time I go near there. So I need to, I need to go like on a big sand mining trip for that. But that's kind of just like a future requirement, right? That's it's a thing I'd like to do at some point. It's a thing I have open, but I'm not doing right now. So now we've got very easily the 3 most important, kind of tricky to navigate things, all locked down with compasses. It cost me 3 Netherite ingots to do that, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a little expensive, but I think it's worthwhile, you know? Like, it's really easy to point to the recipe for that. Also, I wasted 12 iron, 3 redstone, I don't really care about that. Chiseled stone, not really too bothered. Like, you know, those are fun costs of doing business. But spending, you know, like 3 Netherite and 12 iron is an expensive thing to do just for people to join the world. It seems like it's too expensive. It seems, you know, you can look at that and really easily be like, well, you know what, ToycatA, I think you overspent on your, you know, or like, you know, you can say like, it shouldn't be such an expensive recipe. I could see that logic clear and easily if you were to try and make it. Also, I think we have to name these in an anvil, because otherwise lodestone compass isn't good enough. Let's go name these. But yeah, it can be really easy to question something and say like, well, that's, you know, that's awful, that needs to be fixed. And I think that desire inside of us of like wanting things to be better than they are right now is actually more good than it is bad. I think it achieves more than it does not. Also, even if you look inside this chest and don't take the compasses, it'll give you a direction from this chest to the old Acacia village, to the end portal, and to the nice builds. Actually, is it based on my position or is it based on... Yeah, it's based on the position inside of the chest, I think. Oh no, it's following my position now, which is very confusing. Oh no, it's if you imagine the chest as like a thing, it points from you looking at the compass as if it was centered on the chest. That is very wacky, but very, very cool actually. I like that you don't need to even grab it out of a chest, or you could put it in an item frame and it would do just as you know, good of a thing. But yeah, so the other thing we've got to do right here, by the way, is we've got to go down below the ground, because if you, again, some people are just going to want to explore. They're going to enjoy their elytra that I've still got to add in here, and totally will. And some people are going to want to do the kind of authentic, I just joined the world like I really did with ToycatA. And one of the things that I built literally 300 episodes ago now, so if you don't know about this, I really don't blame you, is I built a little system where it's like, okay, so if you want to get into my world, if you want to join, you don't get to exit through the door. This is for when I let you in. If you really want to get out, you got to go through some effort, you know? You can't just get in this world, la-di-da. And so as a result, there's this little bit of a kind of ladder that leads you down here. There's going to be some lava, maybe through the cracks, something like that over here. Then we're going to go past this area, which right now, you know, I'm here now. Why don't we just go ahead and empty this out? And then you're going to have to go through a little bit of a maze. As you can see, I even built myself. This is the weirdest maze in Minecraft. Like, it's not like that big of a pain to go through if you don't want to, but still, I like it anyway, so that's how it is. You go through a maze, and then after that maze is done, what I'm going to have it be like is like, yeah, once you finish the maze, then you can be free. Then it will like bring you back on the other side. I think that's like the best way to do this, and that's what I'm going to be doing right now. But yeah, sometimes it can be really easy to think about, you know, the world in terms of how you would like it to be, rather than the world in terms of how it is right now. And even though it's like kind of like a blessing, because if you think of the, you know, one of the injustices that we see in the world is when you imagine the world as a certain way and you realize it's not. You think the world is just and fair and then you learn that it's not. And that's the sort of thing that lights a fire under people to try and make it better. And I think people trying to make the world better is generally how the world gets better. I think we shouldn't just, you know, be like, oh yeah, let's stay exactly how we are now forever. Like, there is clearly some progress that has to be made over time as a, you know, as a civilization, right? That should go without any saying. But one of the interesting things, also this is a lot of climbing just to get back up to here. Okay, so as long as we get back on the other side of this. Wait, does this lead to the outside? I think it does. Nope, it just leads to a dead end. We're good. You know what? I've decided I'm going to use the efficiency 2 pickaxe that I was going to be giving to people a little bit, so it comes a little bit damaged when people start to use it, just so they appreciate that, like, yeah, this is free diamond stuff. Of course someone's going to use it. No one just gives you some free diamond. It's a dumb lesson to learn. But no, one of the, I don't know, one of the things is like, okay, so the world is slowly opening back up. I would like to travel again. I've been not traveling for the benefit of the world, and maybe you want to argue myself for the last 6 months. And so one of the things I was looking into is like, so okay, which of the countries that are now open and are like actively seeking people to come, like they would like tourists very badly, and they're like, you know, that it's a, you know, like I want to go to places that want me. That's my big kind of attitude. And it's like, so what places do, you know, want me right now? And I look into so many of them, and on if you're, one of the cool things about the UK is I think probably your country has this too, wherever you live in the world, if you're not in the UK. But we have like this big list of like every country and like travel advice if you're going to go there. Like what the UK government recommends as far as if you're going to this territory, here are some things that it's probably a good idea to know. And so for so many countries, there's like this big page about like, oh yeah, in this country, there are no, you know, like, you know, you should not be seen doing any like openly, you know, gay acts in public or whatever, you know, whatever the thing may be. And it's like, oh yeah, that's how the world, you know, be for the most part, right? Like that's the majority opinion. Like you wouldn't, did I just lose those cobwebs? I hope no, I got 1 string back for each of those cobwebs destroyed. That is a disastrous return, in my opinion. I've got silk touch on the shovel. Let's see if we get a cobweb back when we break it. But like, I know it's like a really small thing. Like, you know, we sometimes get really lost in like, I've seen people genuinely argue like, oh yeah, the X thing that is happening right now is 100 times worse than anything anywhere around the world. Like we are the worst country because of this thing that we're not allowing, you know, this particular group right here. And it's like, whoa. You know, like there are so many countries where it's like, oh yeah, just be warned, there's a death penalty if you're accidentally seen, you know, like being this in public. And it's like, man, that's like a real genuine concern. That yeah, right. One of the things I guess I don't value enough. I'm not grateful enough for. I don't think about enough. I just kind of take for granted is that I live in a westernized nation that is like probably, you know, like people always you know, make fun of you when you're like, oh yeah, it's probably one of the best X amount in the world, one of the best 5, 10, or 20 countries, depending on which measure you're using. The UK will generally come up in if you live in the United States, Canada, Germany, or Australia, which are the majority of my viewers, by the way. Your country's probably in that top. It is, in fact, by pretty much any measure you can come up with, in the top 5, 10, or 20. I think the US is like 30th on the democracy index, but like, is democracy the most important thing to you? If it is, then yeah, you know, you can secretly wish that you had a better voting system that didn't force you to vote between 2 choices you didn't like. Oh, you know, whatever thing that you really don't like. Also, I realize this maze has problems in that it's not actually solvable. So I guess we have to open it up over here so that we can, yeah, there we go. Now it's solvable. I've made the maze work. Although it's not much of a maze because there's just kind of, there's lots of questions I have about this maze and why I designed it the way that I did. But this is just, this is how it is. And I guess I've got to deal with that. So I guess this shouldn't be a straight path over there. Instead, we should have some soul sand down there. You know, actually, we'll just put a little cobweb over there, and then make it clear that you got to go all the way around this way. This is a very bad maze, but it's very annoying, which does just about as good a job as being actually well designed. It makes people, it slows people down a little bit, makes them feel like they've earned their entry into the world. And if that isn't an important thing, I don't know what is. But no, yeah, more seriously. There's so many countries about every country I go to, I like check like, oh yeah, is this thing taken for granted? Like there are certain countries where basic medication is seen as like drug smuggling and genuinely can get you the life sentence. Again, we are pretty tough on drugs where in most places I find, but like nowhere near, oh yeah, you lose your life. Not life sentence, death sentence. Did I say life sentence? I might have said life sentence. It's kind of funny, a life sentence and the death sentence are like so very similar in a lot of ways. But leaving aside that little thing right there, you know, I like this room. I feel like this room is pretty well balanced now. I still don't think we have an actual exit for it, so that's beautiful if you think about it. But yeah, if we ignore that one little flaw with it, I think things are going really great. We just gotta stop this being so obvious. I'm not sure how we'll do that, but you know what? That's fine. We did good. Yeah, if we remove some of these blocks here, we can make like a little pathway around. Yeah, let's like put a thing there, and then we'll sort our way through these. I really should be going in with something better, but you know what? We have enough cobwebs. That's my argument, at least. And then we'll go across there, and then boom, look at this. This will drag you down, which is very annoying, and it makes you realize the maze is arbitrary. It looks like there's soul sand under all the cobwebs, but that's just the trick. That's just there because I was convinced that was a good idea, not because it's real. And boom, look at that. Now you're out, you leave the hellhole, and you can go back to living a normal life. Except what if the maze continued here? What if there were 2 main ways you could go? That'd be wacky, right? Anyway, the whole point of what I was trying to say is the kind of message that is always going to be lost, and it's never going to be particularly motivating because it sounds suspiciously like just be happy with what you have, which, you know, is the very opposite of what we do as human beings, and rightfully so. Again, we can make the world better by not thinking that in certain ways, which is why it's not intuitive to me to think this way, that's for sure. I don't know if it's intuitive to anyone out there to think like, oh yeah, I guess things are just about okay then right now, you know, it's could be worse, so I guess we shouldn't even be mad that it's not. But like, the actual, you know, key broad point about all of that is that, again, we can get so stuck up on how things aren't, you know, like, again, if we wanted, you know, $1 and we get, you know, 50 cents to Americanize my units of measurement here, we're like, well, you know, that sure sucks. Imagine a world where we could have had 50 cents, and then you're actually looking at the world, we're like, oh yeah, but the majority have 0. Which should you compare yourself? Should you compare to your ideal version of yourself, or should you compare to the realistic other versions, you know? Because, you know, in my dream, one of the things that makes me infinitely sad is how we are not in space yet. We are still, as a species, at the threat of one planetary event happening, one solar system event happens, we are wiped out. That, you know, again, admittedly, technically speaking, if our planet gets wiped out, there's some astronauts in space that will last another few years, and maybe, you know, again, it's like a 1 in a trillion chance that they can make civilization again. But like, if there's a solar system event, we are gone. We are not prepared as a species in the slightest because we're so focused on our narrow person-to-person interests rather than our species-wide interests sometimes. It feels like, at least. It feels like we think very much on the individual scale or like within our small group scale rather than on a human-wide scale sometimes. You know, what the flaw or what the reasoning for that is something we could speculate about all day, I'm sure. But okay, we're almost there now. Oh, okay, that's nice. Love finding a witch. But one of the things I guess I'm just trying to say is like people who genuinely think their place is the worst in the world. I've seen this on Reddit a bunch of times. It's mostly like Americans, right? Like who are like, oh my god, I can't believe I live in the worst country to ever have existed. And it's like, well, I mean, there's some really bad things about, you know, the US, that's for sure. Again, as a British person, there's a lot of, like, let's call it culture shock, to be polite, about how things are done. But, you know, to suggest that, you know, and even though I like America a lot, you know, I'd admit, like, you can't objectively say it's the best in the world, because objectively what is the best in the world will vary. But to not even think that it's in the top 50%, let alone not the top 10 or something like that. Again, that's like the realistic, like, where does it actually go kind of view. And, okay, we need ladders here, I think. Because now this pathway should be finally finished. We've just got to kind of cover this up better. So, you know, we'll just kind of tunnel down a bit and then go above. Get some more iron ore, by the way. Oh, wait, through the course of this episode, we've got enough iron to replace the ones that we lost for our compass. See, we lived and we learned. Isn't that beautiful? But, yeah, so, how about I put it this way? Because I really think whenever I'm saying stuff like this, there's going to be someone who's like, no, ToycatA, you can't say it's worse elsewhere as a you know, a justification for how things are right here. And even though I would disagree, I'd say, no, actually, if you look at realistic outcomes, that's a better, you know, like, you can theoretically become a, you know, like, it's very possible to become, like, what a billionaire or something, right? Like, J.K. Rowling literally went from single mother-owned benefits to a billionaire, like just by writing a book. Didn't even have to do all of that imaginary exploitation, or like what, or maybe realistic exploitation, but like didn't have to do anything. Just like she went from like being at the very bottom strata, like bottom 20%, to top point something 2%. Like some ridiculously low number. There's like 3-ish thousand billionaires in the world when denominated in US dollars. Should we just, having this right here seems like a really bad idea. It seems like it's kind of like encouraging people to cop across. So let's just make that look like that, shall we? There we go. Now people will be none the wiser to what's happening on the other side. Also, this tunnel seems like it should be going somewhere. Should I put a sign at the end being like, nah? Or should we just like box it up? I think we should just box it up. Again, I want to make things smooth and easy for people going through here. Look at this. This is a nice wall. Yeah, we'll make all of these walls out of dirt, I guess. That seems like a logical thing for me to do. Just kind of like smoothen the transition. And now it looks like you're half underground, half under stone or whatever. But yeah, so anyway, the point I was trying to say with all of that is that, you could measure yourself against J.K. Rowling. Like, oh yeah, she started lower than you, statistically speaking, and she ended up higher than you. And now she's gone to a situation where she gets to offend the world on a regular basis with whatever words she says, right? I'm sure there's someone, as soon as you mention the name, there's people frothing, like to be like, yep, here's the thing that I dislike. Think about the fact that, like, the fact that you have things you dislike about her, we'll say they're 100% true, but the fact that she has opinions that you have to incorrect, versus if she'd have stayed as a single mother on benefits, you wouldn't have to be like, oh yeah, look, I am gonna actively think so wildly about this, because her contribution to society before the whole whatever she does these days, that's which you can't, you could, I guess they are technically contributions to society, just maybe not the same quality, you could maybe argue. But like, again, measuring yourself against her is maybe a bad idea. It's not realistic, because it's not where most people in your like kind of thing have ended up. But like, if you look at like the biggest indicator in what determines how wealthy someone can be, and therefore to some extent what determines how happy someone can be. Wealth and happiness aren't directly correlated, but I think it's fair to say most people would be happier with more wealth. Not all people. That's a whole fun subject I love to talk about. I've had multiple friends where money was the thing that like ruined their life. One of them went to prison because of it. But it's a very wacky world, but like on that level. But if you just think about like, okay, so what is the number one thing that determines whether I will make, what determines how much money I make, the happiness I'll have, the freedom I'll feel, whatever feeling you're going for, they usually correlate pretty well together. Even health outcomes, like especially in America, like it's true in other countries, but it's especially true there. The length of your life can be like correlated to your wealth in a way that is insanely messed up when you really want to think about it too much. I already put a pickaxe in there. Oh, I guess I'll trade out that pickaxe for this pickaxe. You know what? I don't want them to have a unbreaking on their pickaxe. I don't think they deserve that. I don't want people to be too full of themselves. And now we just need to give a, we'll give them this bow. It's such a ragtag bunch, like genuinely well-enchanted stuff. And then this and this. And now we just need to give them the elytra. And we're good to go here, huh? But yeah, like I was saying, all of those different factors, they correlate with wealth. And the biggest indicator to how much wealth someone will have, and therefore how much happiness, how much success, how much like their health, and all these other trillion. Again, if you don't understand that money can equal a lot of positive outcomes, it's hard to understand. This argument won't have water with you. But if you do understand that, yeah, actually, I would like more money, but how do I get it? I can't because of the insert thing here. If you are in that category, then the simplest thing to say is like the number one pointer is geography. Where you live, geographically speaking, will determine your opportunities, which will determine how much of those opportunities you can convert into real into tangible kind of like money gaining, or whatever you want to call it after that. So given that geography is the biggest number one factor, if you live in because again, although geography is something you can change, it's something you can only change if you are from one of the top 10 or 20 or so countries, because they are protective of their internal markets. So if you live in one of those countries and you don't live in like the most well you know, like the best off bit. Like you live in, you know, say a town that's been run down for a while, like a town of 1,000 people where there's just one employer and that employer went bust. So yeah, there's no opportunity for you. In the UK, I can think of countless towns like this. You know, like they're just people who have lived there forever and they don't really want to move because, you know, moving sure do be hard, yo. I like to think of it like this, to just give you the real world example rather than kind of beating around the bush on this. I am from a pretty small village initially that's like within 100-ish miles of London. Or maybe it's like, I think it's 100 kilometers maybe. You know, it's within some distance of London, which sounds really close if you live in the United States, but in the UK that's just describing where like a third of the UK lives. But I live in a, I came from a small place like that, and every now and then I go back and I like see some friends or whatever, and a lot of them are, you know, perfectly happy and content with their existence, just living there. And some people are like, man, things sure do suck here. Yeah, what's the scoop with that? And it's really hard to, you know, it's weird because when you live near London, which or even just 100 kilometers, which is arguably not near, but it's not far from one of the biggest financial centers in the world, right? And it's also well connected. Like there are roads, there are trains, there are all the billion different ways to get there, you know, like, and even if there wasn't, you know, you can always, it's generally rare to have places that are not connected in the slightest, but it is well connected. It is one of the biggest cities in not just, you know, one area, but in arguably the world. I'm gonna look at see if this map has changed, by the way, because I think a few of these maps sort of changed because of the torches. I want to see which ones. Yeah, I reckon this one up here is gonna be one of the first ones to change. Look at that endstone cube that right now isn't covered up. It's gonna suddenly get very bizarre as we get close. Also, a lot of the snow should melt off, right? Oh yeah, look at this. I love seeing, like, this is one of my weird addictions. Seeing maps slowly change as you go on there. The castle is getting snowier, and the bridge is getting less snowy. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that a bizarre little change right there? But, so yeah, while we look at some magic happen, which I can enjoy all day, it's a kind of thought to me that it's like, oh yeah, people will spend, you know, years of their life filling out forms, you know, just to get to the very bottom of this totem pole in a big city, because like big cities are where the opportunity is. That's where the opportunity turns into all those sorts of things. And it's like you have the opportunity if you live in any major developed country. There is a part of your country that desperately needs people like you. There is, you know, in terms of economically, there's a part of the country that needs people like you in your field of expertise as well. You statistically don't live there because, you know, like if you have a very specialized thing that you do. Look, yeah, the entire bridge besides that one snow block, which had to ruin it all, by the way, didn't it? Even some of that ice is going away. And then some cake should show up, right? Is the cake not going to show up? Does cake not show up on maps? I'm going to be very sad if that's true. I guess cake doesn't show up on maps. Today I learned. But yeah, look at that. The end stone brick just kind of slowly phasing in and apparently also being covered in snow. You know, that's something we should also work on, I guess. I never really considered, but this whole ice ocean right here, I can't cover it in torches, and that's sad. I could light up the ocean underneath it, but that seems just as inconsequentially unimportant. But yeah, look at that. We've now reloaded the map, and you can see what it looks like. Isn't that kind of fun? I enjoy this a lot. But let's get back to what we originally wanted to do. I want one last thing to do today before I can feel comfortable. Before I can, you know, like, be sure that this is the last major version before we throw it to people for the first time. There'll be updates. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, I just want to kind of say, like, there are certain small lessons that seem like so often people are recruiting you and they're selling you because they have a particular motive. That's the only big reason someone will tell you about an opportunity that they have nothing to do with. And let me just tell you, I have nothing to do with your near big city. I don't know where it is. Like, if you live in, you know, Indiana, it's Indianapolis probably, right? Is that it? How big is that city? Probably big enough that there's big jobs that, you know, do in your field or that pay well, or maybe if you're really lucky, both. Like if you're into, you know, programming and you know, like the Bay Area, right? Like where entry salaries are like six figures if you're like just about competent at your job. Like you know, you can be several hundred times richer than kings. Even if we just ignore kings, because like whatever. Like the richest class of people 50 years ago, in most places, have nothing on the bare minimum starting person in a place like, you know, San Francisco. Or what's the other big coding hub? There's one in London as well, but like, yeah, I think there's one in Canada, maybe like Montreal. But there's a bunch of like places where a lot of tech jobs kind of form together. Same with like, I don't know, there's certain places where all mining jobs are big. I'm not selling you on any of these things. I'm just saying, if you want something to do and you don't really feel like you have a place, you just want to do something and you want to feel the good bits of life. If you don't want to, you know, one of the interesting things about, again, I do something I love for a living, so people always take, like, I am eternally, I always feel like it's kind of like a mixture, right? Like sometimes real friends are like, well, you don't have a real job, you play the video games. And if we ignore that, that's you know, how that is, because, you know, some of you are probably like that too. Like, yeah, ToycatA, well, how are you gonna talk about this when you're in your situation? One of the interesting things about doing something you love as a job is that you arguably, I'm gonna make a big arrow pointing to the left, by the way. Don't know how to do that. It's been a while since I made an arrow out of blocks, but we'll just see how it goes. Yeah, one of the weird downsides of oh, this isn't gonna work at all. Okay, so we're gonna do this, and then we'll kind of like point like an arrow and remove this whole bottom layer. Is you know, it's like, oh yeah, it seems like the whole idea of like working to, shouldn't have removed that block there, but the whole idea of working so that, you know, like in exchange for money is like, no, you just do the thing you want. It kind of rolls in. But people are always like, oh yeah, I don't want to be defined by my job. Easiest way to not be defined by your job would be to do something that you know, like do something that you're not particularly fond of, but gives you the resources to make the rest of your life the thing that you care about. And yeah, that's why I'm always like, money doesn't buy happiness, but it can buy away unhappiness in a lot of cases. And it can also, is that better? No, for some, I don't know why that one block there is so ugly, but it really does ruin the whole thing, right? There's just something off about that. So I think I'll build a second arrow. Okay, that block there ruined everything so bad. I don't think I can redeem it at this point. But I think I want to build like a second arrow that just kind of mentions like, hey, you can take this and it will take you to the Nether Fortress. Maybe. I think that's a good idea. And then after we get like far enough on it, we can have a second arrow. So for now, just in case someone gets lost and confused, we'll give them a sign. Whenever I'm doing stuff like this, I have this kind of crisis internally. It's like, whenever I write something that's like, oh yeah, here is a thing that I did that you might care about, I feel, I don't know if I think the word is like imposter syndrome, which again is very common in certain high competence fields, I've heard. But like, I'm not in a, maybe I'm in a high competence field. I don't think so. I don't think being a Minecraft YouTuber based on, you know, like you see in the YouTube field a really weird mix of people who are like there, like grinding and grinding. People are just like really lucky to be where they are. And some days I don't know, like, which one am I? Like, I like to believe that I'm the, you know, the first one who like tries their best and like tries to work out how the YouTube algorithm works so I can make things from it. And some days I think like, you know, maybe I'm just the lucky one, right place, right time. You don't ever know for sure. But one of the things that's kind of terrifying, one of the things that I always think about is like when I'm doing something like this, like I'm trying to tell you where something I built is. I'm assuming that you care about this thing enough to want to know where my, you know, recycled Nether Fortress is, or again, whatever dumb thing it may be. And something about assuming that is very, I don't know how to properly describe it, but also this seems like an unnecessary arrow. Now that I look at it, it's like, yeah, I wonder where the recycled Nether Fortress is. I would not be able to tell without some blocks, that is for sure. But it seems very, very dumb now that I'm here, right? But yeah, like I was saying, I sometimes feel like this weird feeling of like, why am I acting like people care? Why am I pretending that? Because that's when, you know, you ever see someone who you have no idea who they are, who's like, I'm actually a really big deal, and you're like, well, clearly not. It's like the worst turn off for someone you don't know. Yeah, did it. It's the worst turn off for someone you don't know. Just like, oh, they think I care about them. Well, I don't. That's how my brain works. Maybe not anyone else's. But it's really hard when you have something you want to say. Like even that little speech about geographic mobility that I hope helps one person out. It's, you know, I know realistically most people are already down some rabbit hole that they can't change, and that's not going to be wildly useful to them. Yeah, this arrow is just too chunky. It needs to be thinner, right? Let's like let's remove all the blocks besides the middle one. There we go. That's kind of ugly too. You know, I'm just doomed to make ugly arrows. that's just what I do apparently. So we could maybe make like a little pathway from this to that. Yeah, you could walk in front of the arrow. I think that's a fun idea. And then you could jump from there maybe, or I guess we could have like you could climb above the arrow. Yeah, have a little staircase going behind the arrow. That seems like a smart idea. After we grab the nether brick. But saying something and trying to convince people you have any idea what you're saying, any authority or any reason that they should listen to you, it's something I fear and think about all the time. I'm like, man, I would hate. I am terrified of listening back to myself and being like, oh, I hate me, because that is a common reaction, a common feel I get when I you know, sometimes look back at stuff. It's hard to be like, hey, you know, do you guys want to subscribe? I bet you do, because then you'll see more of my stuff, because that's what I know you want to see. You want to see more me. That's what your life is missing, right? And it's like, it's kind of a big assumption to make. Can we put that there, or is that? Wait, if we put that, is that? Oh god, that's not an arrow. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely not an arrow. Yeah, we made the ugly thing again. We made the thing. Oops. So we'll just remove those blocks again, I guess. Remove that block as well. And now you can jump on the arrow. I guess you'd have to jump behind it like that. There we go. No one will notice this. And then you should be able to, if I just kind of like extend these blocks a little bit, you should be able to get onto the base of this. If we can just now remove these. Hey, look at that. Now we got a way to get to the recycled nether fortress. I like this. This took a lot of work to do. I mean this, but also making this happen. And it's done, right? It's like there are so many more elegant solutions I could have come up with. Why do I assume that mine is worth watching? And one of the things that people, every video I have now, someone is like, haha, laughs in insert YouTuber here, like, oh, ToycatA, that's cute. You think you did redstone? Don't you know another YouTuber did a similar thing, but bigger, and therefore your thing is unworthwhile? Because particularly this Let's Play, it's meant to just be, how am I playing Minecraft in that last week? Like, it's not meant to be, this is the authoritative way to play it. But maybe it's my own style of videos. Maybe it's just the way the wind is blowing these days. But it's like, there are people who are out there being like, no, you have to do everything the best all the time. If it's not the very best, why are you uploading it onto YouTube? And it's a fair argument. Like, I see where it comes from. It's hard to debunk it on just the surface of it alone, right? And it makes me also, oh, interesting portal placement. I should make a sign being like, end is that way, because the number of times I run past my end portal is too darn high. So we'll do that. We'll add the elytra, and then we'll put some lava in and call it a day, huh? It's a simple sign, but I do like it. It does the job. I'll see that and be like, huh, guess there's an end portal there. But yeah, so one of the scary things is when people are like, yeah, you gotta, here's the better version of that thing that you tried. Why'd you do it the bad way, ToycatA? And it's like, oh no, that wasn't the entire thing at all. I'm just and it, you know, like it's especially harsh when you're like, yeah, I can. When you see where someone's coming from, a criticism hurts so much more. I think I've vaguely said this before, but I want to reiterate that a criticism that is like untrue is so much worse than one that you fear to be true. Like when you call me really tall, you're like, oh, you're such a lanky. Well, is lanky a word anyone uses outside the UK? I generally don't know. But like, let's say you try to really criticize me for being too tall. You're like, oh, you know, how's the weather up there, ToycatA? Those things don't hurt me. Same with like, if you call me any words, you know, call me all the racial slurs, even the ones from you know, where I actually am, you know, my family is from. Like I am a quarter Asian. Call me whatever Asian words you want, right? Like I have no issue of any words, which, you know, people always get to be like, well, that's because people never use those things against you. And that probably is true to some extent, right? Like, yeah, I'm lucky that people don't generally use those attributes against me. But there are some, like, physical attributes that people have held against me way more, or, like, what feels like way more than those things, right? Like, I had a, I know, like, I had acne really bad as a teenager. I still don't have it entirely gone, and it's still a real thing that happens all the time. Same with, like, hair comments, and I've had to, like, on the internet, what I've had to do is, like, learn to deal with them, right? There's no way I can be like, hey, I want to make it not okay to say anything about these things. They generally hurt because they are, there's a little bit of truth to them. There's a little bit of, like, people say them all the time, and I'm not entirely secure in those things. I'm not entirely secure in my ability to make videos. I make videos pretty badly. You know, the reason I have editors is because I edit really, really bad. The majority of videos on this channel are ones I've edited myself, and they could have turned out better. They could have been better things. I don't think that's where my talent lies, or what I do, you know, good on this YouTube channel. If there is such a thing, I do good on this YouTube channel. And that's why, and especially like coming to the marketplace now, there's going to be a new wave of that from a whole different angle, where there are people who are going to be like, well, you know what, I can't believe all your map is, ToycatA, is just your survival world that you've been playing for 8 years. You know, like, just, you know, only 10,000 hours of putting something. Because it's interesting, because, like, this, objectively speaking, is probably the most hours that it's taken to make a Minecraft marketplace map. This map will have taken, again, over 10,000 hours. I literally can't count them because it's across 3 different platforms. Here is my Elytra. Mending 1 or Breaking 3. Mending's really easy for me to get. I've got a bunch of mending books, as you can see. Oh no, I do not have a bunch of mending books. I should go get a bunch of mending books, but that's a separate point. The interesting thing to me is that that there's going to be that whole way. Technically speaking, this is the longest made marketplace map by one person, because it's just 10, 15. I would assume it's somewhere between 10 and 15,000 hours. I know just in Bedrock, you can see from my achievements, just since 2017, I played 5,000 hours. I swear it was 6,000 last time I checked. Anyways, I played 5,083 hours of survival. That excludes my time in the menus, and I think it excludes time in creative, because creative doesn't count towards achievements, right? Yeah, I think, like, on the basis of time played, it's like the best. But also you'd be like, well, none of that was really like spent specifically trying to make it. It was just you made the map by accident, you know, like, and again, there was no actual intent to sell it. I was hoping, one of the things I was excited for is, like, when Minecraft, you know, like, console, they were speaking towards the end of its lifespan about having a map sharing system where you could share maps with other players. And I was like, heck yeah, we'll throw it on there. The idea of, like, putting it on there for a profit has only been a very recent little addition to the, you know, the idea. Also, should we give them, you know, okay, we'll throw that over there. And we're going to remove this bow just because it makes the inventory messy. And we'll just keep that. We'll just put that in our little slot. But, yeah, anyway, like I was saying, it is, it's kind of a weird journey that's gone from start to finish on this map. And, yeah, I'm really excited that now, as of today, this, you know, after placing these 5 lava buckets down in this little hole, this will be, a thing that people will be able to check out regardless of your platform. That is the thing I am most excited about. And, again, always going to be ready to a wave of words and criticisms, and you know, that's fine. That's the internet. But I just want to say, before any of that happens, before any of the inevitable, like, I can't believe you think, you know, this, that, the other, despite it being significantly cheaper than most things on the store, because you have to charge for things on the marketplace. That is, you don't have, like, if you have to get a specific exemption not to. I don't think I'm allowed to say that, so I didn't say that. I'm joking, haha. But, like, yeah, you have to charge for things. Probably, maybe. That seems like it's maybe open fact, and if it's not, then I'm joking. But yeah, I'm very good at contracts and laws and not breaking them, as you can see. But yeah, I think that also, man, that having this water flow in here is kind of an ugly way to do things. If I place, like, a sign here, I would stop that, but I want something, like, better than a sign. What does the same job as a sign? Like a scaffolding? Yeah, a scaffolding. There we go. You walk through the scaffolding door, except you can't. Huh. Okay, there we go. Well, now we got a water maze that isn't so ugly. Simple solutions to complex problems. This is the version, as of today, of the world that I'll be sending off to get compressed, and then we'll be hopefully getting it on the store. There's going to be some weird rules about how we get it on there that I can't even fathom right now, because there's a lot of bureaucracy that happens to get things out there. But I'm really excited that this thing that I have made and like, over the last, 8 years. Let's be honest, it's 7 3/4 years. Let's not puff up our chest too much. But over the last 7 3/4 years, all of this will be available if you want to check it out because you're curious about any of the hundreds of videos that we've made over that time. And I'll give you more info when it's actually like close to coming out. But now for the first time, we're like at that final hurdle. Like unless there is some unforeseeable extra issue, which again, because of how the internals of Microsoft and the marketplace and whatnot works, there might be. But every big issue that I know of has been fixed, and therefore this world you see right here will be available to download soon. Something a lot of people have asked for. Oh, and just in case you're the guy who's like, no, ToycatA, why won't you also make it for free? Ignoring the fact that that's against the rules of the marketplace, I can hint to you that there is an old version available for download, but I can't promote a free version of a map that I'm charging from the marketplace because they want the marketplace to be things that are like specifically for the marketplace, because otherwise people feel like they're being, it's like having to pay for things that are paid is very different to having to pay for things that are free elsewhere. Personally, I think you should give people the ability to choose, but now we're getting into a whole different argument that we're not going into, because all we're going into today is it's been a delight seeing you today, and I'll give you updates via Twitter and maybe future Let's Plays. But for now, thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed seeing me waste Netherite ingots on the guest experience. For guests that I will never see in this world, they're going to join after the fact. But yeah, that's my commitment to 100% survival. I will lose Netherite if that's what's required to keep everything this way. And if you enjoyed the video, like it and let me know. Share if you really liked it. And just as a final little end note here, you can see the world is in fact all survival. Although actually, because of a bug that is going to be fixed, I think tomorrow, that's not the case. There's so many things I want to talk about, but Let's Plays have to end, and so does life. Goodbye. That's a dark ending. Let's Plays have to end, and so does your enjoyment of them. No, wait. Let's Plays have to end, and so do you. That's even darker. We'll leave it there.